Hello and welcome to EzzyBills July month's webinar. This webinar, we will be speaking of the new features that we have developed and released. So as you can see, I'm showing my screen and we're talking about managing contacts. So this is the newest features that EzzyBills has released. Quite a few of our customers recently, in the last 1 year, we saw many of our customers coming straight from Dext, and they were requesting for this feature as to you have something in Dext wherein you can set the default GL codes or tracking, and you can attach it to your contacts, and automatically whenever you process a bill of that contact, when it goes into Xero, it carries those default account codes, default tracking to be precise. And that's the primary reason why we have bought this feature to use. So you can pretty much have the similar experience and ease of setting default values to your contacts. So I'm going to take you straight onto EzzyBills account. This session will, in first part of the session, I'm going to give you a brief about where is the contacts page, how you can access the contacts within EzzyBills, and then we will see how you can set the values, how you can batch edit, what will be the common reasons or common purposes that you will be doing this, using this feature. So let's go to EzzyBills accounts right away. So this is how your dashboard looks, correct? And you must have noticed on the left where we show all the navigation menu options, you have this new option that has been popped up quite recently, which is contacts. That's exactly what this feature is, what we're going to talk about. So I will take you straight into the contacts. So how you can access the contacts. So you click on this contacts link on the left navigation menu, and then you see a contacts, and then you see a hyperlink for Xero contacts. Now, in my case, my account is just connected with Xero. So that's why it only gives me the option of Xero contacts. If in your case, you are using multiple accounting systems and you have connected multiple accounting systems with your EzzyBills account, for example, most of our customers, they would use Xero and SIMPRO, or MYOB and SIMPRO, QuickBooks and SIMPRO. In that case, you will see two different links here. First will be Xero contacts and the second will be SIMPRO contacts, depending on what systems you are integrated with. As soon as you click on this link, Xero Contacts is gonna take you to a completely different page in a new tab that looks like this. This is how you launch the contacts. This is how you get into EzzyBills contacts page, correct? Now, this page has quite a few attributes, quite a few columns. I'm gonna explain each and every one to you so you get a better understanding of what that is. In the top, you have three main options, which is all suppliers and customers. You can use this to distinguish between, if you want to just look at your suppliers from your Xero or from your connected accounting system, you can just click on supplier. Why in the same fashion, if you want to go see your customers, if you are in a process of using sales invoice, you use EzzyBills just to process your accounts receivables, then you can just simply click customers. And in most cases, you will be using all option. Whenever you want to search now, I only see about 6 or 7 contacts here because the connected account that I have of Xero is a trial testing account, and I only have these seven contacts in there. In your case, since you're going to be using this on live account, you will have multiple lists, like a long list of contacts, depending on how many contacts you have. Everything will be shown in this list, right? Search box is there to help you with searching a specific contact. So if I want to search Bunnings, I can simply go and type Bunnings and Bunnings, and then it's going to show me that contact. So you can easily This is really helpful in case of when you're going in this section and you want to set some default values, but you want to only do it for a couple of your contacts. You don't want to do it for all of them. And it really does not make any sense to do it for all of them, because EzzyBills, as it is, when we are processing bills, we look into your account history in your Xero, and then we pull the correct account codes, we pull the correct tracking. So there is no point in doing this for all of your contacts. It's designed to help you where there are few contacts, you process them differently than the normal ones. Correct. So let's have a look at all the columns that are here at the moment. So as you can see, these all columns are giving you all the details of that context from that accounting system. So you have something called as ID, type, account number, address, email. So in my case, we only see the details on first contact, which is facile imports, because I have went in Xero and I have updated that contact with all those details. You can easily see all those details. The key thing to note here is it's a one-way sync. Whatever you upload and add, update in your contacts in your accounting system, be it Xero or QuickBooks or MYOB, it will be shown here. But when you see it in EzzyBills, most of the information about the supplier is in read-only format. So you cannot add that information in EzzyBills and think that EzzyBills will go and add that in your accounting system. That's not how it's going to work. As of now, it's just showing you the details that it's importing from your accounting system, and everything is shown here. You can definitely check the details. How it's going to help you is quite a few times you will see EzzyBills mapping a supplier from the bill. It extracts ABN, it extracts a supplier name, but then on Xero, when it goes, or in your accounting system, when it goes, it might go to the wrong supplier. Now, the reason behind that could also be the ABN that is extracted from the bill in your accounting system is mapped onto a different supplier. So that's a case of wrong ABN updated on the supplier, right? That's why EzzyBills is doing that. You can always quickly check if that is the case in here. You can always search that ABN here and see if it is on correct supplier or if it's on wrong supplier. If you see it's on wrong supplier, then that is the reason why EzzyBills has assigned a wrong supplier to that bill. And in that case, you can simply go into your Xero, correct that ABN, come back into EzzyBills and click refresh. So at any given point, if you are updating any details in your accounting system, it is very essential that you come back into EzzyBills and click refresh. Now, I believe all of you know where the refresh button is. I will quickly show you. So there are two ways you can refresh your account. The first way is you go to settings, you click on account settings, and then you click on this little button here, refresh loan. It simply reloads data from your accounting software. So if you add new suppliers, if you add additional information to the suppliers like ABN, bank account, any sort of that information, the first thing that you will need to do is come here in EzzyBills and click on refresh button right here. The second option has been put in the apps section. If you go to the apps, you will find a refresh task. You click on that refresh, and then it tells you how to just click on start refresh. As soon as you click on start refresh, you will see a message which says refresh started. Now, EzzyBills right away, it starts the refresh, and you can see on your dashboard or search approved that the refresh task has been started. And once it's finished, all the information that you have added in your accounting system, the new information, new suppliers, new ABN will be brought over in EzzyBills. And then if you go to the contacts page and if you refresh the contacts page, any new information that you have added will be shown here. Correct? Right. Now, moving on to how do you set default values and what are values can you set? Now, if you want to set it for just one supplier, let's say I want to set it for Eurofoods. I want to set a default account code GL code or cost center, you may call it different names. And I want to set a tracking for this Eurofood supplier. So once I set it, I don't need to worry about it. Whenever the Eurofoods bill will come and I put it through EzzyBills, it's going to look at these settings and and automatically it will set the correct tracking and correct account code that I have updated in here. So how to do that? So I'm going to simply click on Eurofoods, the supplier. And then there is this window that opens up that gives me 4 different options: workflow, tracking, GL code, and tax code. I'm going to explain each of these options, but tracking and GL code is quite straightforward. So if I want to set a default tracking, I'm just going to simply click in the tracking, and then it will show me the available tracking options in my accounting software, and I can select one of them. So I can select region West tracking, and in the GL code, let's say I want to select office equipment, for example. So I select that, and as soon as I have done selecting this, I'm going to click save. Clicking save is very essential for these settings to be saved. Once I've clicked save, the contacts page will refresh. And now if I look at the Eurofoods, this one, you can see in Eurofoods, now we have GL code office equipment that has been shown here and tracking region widths that's been shown here. So now those GL code and tracking, they become the default for that particular supplier. Anytime Eurofoods bill has gonna come in, it's gonna automatically be assigned office equipment and region based in the tracking and account code section. Coming back to the other 2 options. So what is this workflow and tax code? So in Australia, we are lucky to just have 10% tax code, right? But in some other, so this is primarily for countries which have multiple tax code. For example, Canada and US, they have different stats like tax codes, depending on what state is it or what sector is it, right? So in that case, they can also select which tax code structure they want to use for that particular supplier based on which state that supplier is. And once you select tax code, that tax code structure will always be applied to that supplier. Primarily for Australia, I don't think we will need tax code because Australia and New Zealand is pretty much standard. We have 10% here and we have 15% in New Zealand. So it's pretty much standard. Coming back to workflow. Now, what is the workflow? So workflow is essentially used to achieve certain objective, right? Now, let's say I have, let's say for Bunnings, whenever a Bunnings invoice comes in, I want it to first go to my junior manager for approval. And then after junior manager approves, it should go to the director for approval. And once he approves, then it should go into my Xero for payment. However, other suppliers, I'm not so worried about. They can straight away go to Xero as well. So this is a specific case where we want a different behavior for one particular supplier, and the rest, we don't want that, right? So majority of the bills, I'm happy if they are processed as it is straight away to Xero without approvals, but especially for Bunnings or maybe some other supplier, I want that to go through approval. Now, this is a different behavior for just one supplier, correct? In that case, we can create a workflow specifically for Bunnings. And you need to do is you can then go in the workflow, and depending on whichever workflow you would want to select, you will select that workflow. What is going to happen whenever Bunnings bill will come in? EzzyBills is going to detect that the supplier is Bunnings, and in the contact settings, it has a workflow assigned to it. So automatically, EzzyBills will move that bill to that workflow, and the instructions of that workflow will be met. Now, this is just the one case where I given you an example of if at all that supplier needs approval, only and only that supplier, then we can have it. We also have cases wherein we do quite a lot of document conversion. Like we have quite a few clients who have purchase orders, and then they will convert those purchase order to sale invoice, and then they will put it in their Xero. So that's also a different behavior than the normal one, right? So Depending on those suppliers, you can also have a PO created, which will say PO to sale, and then put it in as a sale invoice attached to that supplier. So whenever a document from that supplier is gonna come in, automatically EzzyBills is gonna detect that this is a purchase order, but I want to process it as a sale invoice because I'm going to send it to my customer, correct? And then that will automatically be processed on the workflow that is attached to that particular supplier, and it will be processed as sale invoice. Now, these are just a couple of cases that I have given you. In reality, when you are doing business, you might come across quite a few cases wherein 70 or 80% of the bills you treat in one fashion, and then the rest 30% you have you need something different. You need something ad hoc, like some bills might need approval, some bills might need conversion, some documents might need like from tax like supplier invoice to sales invoice, some might need sales invoice to supplier invoice. If you have certain specific cases, we as it is create extra workflows for you, the secondary workflows. But then in here, we can completely automate that process. So you don't have to forward that bill to special email addresses. You can straight away just use one single email address and tag the suppliers, and EzzyBills will automatically detect which workflow it should go, and it will be processed on that workflow. Interesting question. And this could be I've given you two cases, and this will be precisely the third case. So the question here is, can a supplier invoice be memorized to split between two or more GL codes? That's exactly a business case where we would use this contacts page and the workflow method, right? So you have, let's say, one Bunnings or any Bunnings supplier. Whenever that supplier bill comes in, I split that bill into 70-30. 70% could be business expense, 30% could be personal expense, and 70% business expense is going on X, like one of the account codes, and 30% goes on the other account code. So I can configure that workflow and I can default it to Bunnings. So without any special treatment, whenever you forward Bunnings bill to EzzyBills email address, EzzyBills will detect it's a Bunnings bill, and there is a workflow attached to Bunnings supplier. And then it's going to move it to that workflow, do the split account code, assign the account code to the ones that we have mentioned in the instructions. If there are any approval steps, it will go through approval steps. And when it goes into Xero, you will see that it's been split into two different account codes automatically without you have to do anything special once you set this up. So yeah, that's precisely a third case. Similarly, we can have a job split account code. Like sometimes we split invoice either based on account codes and also based on job. So if you want to do that, we can do that as well. Correct. Okay. So now I think now we've understood fairly why in which cases we would use workflow. So think about it. Any special case that you want to treat in EzzyBills, you want an invoice to go through a different behavior than the normal ones, we can have it configured in workflow, and then we can straight away attach it to that supplier. So whenever that supplier bill will come in, it is treated with that special workflow, and we already have, and we don't need to do anything manually. Right. And as I said, again, I'll reiterate again, not all, you don't need to go and configure it for everyone, because most of the times what expected out of EzzyBills is extract the information and export it in the Xero with certain approval, with certain GL codes, and with certain tracking, right? EzzyBills as it is does that from the history of your account. However, if it's ever changing, or if it's in some cases it's not working, or in some cases you want completely different behavior for each supplier, this is why you have the contacts page, and then you can attach a workflow to straight away a supplier, so you don't have to keep changing the email address that you upload. Oh, yes, the machine. I'm assuming when you say, so there is another interesting question, the machine learning. I'm assuming you mean learning rules will still operate as normal for those don't set defaults from, right? Yes, so learning rules is completely different thing. It has nothing to do with what we're doing here. Learning rules also go on supplier. So if you have set it for that particular supplier in your account, they will always work until the supplier changes the document format of the bill. As long as there is no change in the document format, the rules will always get applied and you will always get the desired output. Beautiful. I am loving this session. We have another amazing and interesting question. Can we set a workflow to add a margin and bill at our end? Margin and bill at our end, customer pushing the customer sales invoice through SIMPRO. Well, it's a bit tricky because I'm not exactly getting all the information, but you've mentioned SIMPRO and you've mentioned customer sale invoice through SIMPRO, something like that. However, I will tell you what we can do. Now, this is example 4. Like we saw a split bill, we saw approval, um, we saw PO to sale. This qualifies as an example 4, wherein we're getting a document. It could be a bill, it could be a sales invoice. We're adding a margin into it. In other words, what we're doing is we're adding an extra price like 20%, 30%. We are increasing the price of that bill by 20%, 10%, 15%, and then we're putting it through. So we do that. That's a customized workflow in EzzyBills, right? That's a standard workflow. Now, if you have a customer for whom you want to do this automatically, you can simply have that workflow attached to that customer. So whenever a bill that has come in for that customer, automatically since that workflow is attached, it will go there and will add the price, like update the price 10%, 15%, 20%, and then it will automatically process it in your accounting system. We call that price adjustment. It's quite standard. So that could be one of the cases. That's the special treatment. So all these price adjustment, adding margins to bill and then posting it in accounting system, splitting account codes. All these are special cases wherein you can have a workflow attached to that particular supplier and then just sit back and relax. EzzyBills will take care of that. Okay, so right now we saw how you can edit each contact. So if you want to edit, this method is useful wherein you want to edit one or two in a different fashion. For example, customer Yin, I want to edit a single one. I will click on it, the box will open, and then I will put in the values. This is single edit. If you have multiple suppliers and then let's say you use split account code for 5 or 10 or 15 suppliers at once, and they all have same percentage of split account code, then you want to do a batch edit. Then it does not make sense for you to click on each one and then edit it and then save it. Then you need batch edit. And we do support batch edit. All you need to do is you will need to select on the left hand side. If you see, there is a tick box. If you select multiple suppliers or contacts, you can see the batch edit button automatically pops up. So if I'm not selecting multiple, I cannot click on batch edit. But as soon as I select multiple suppliers, I can do batch edit. So, and it also shows me 3 selected. Then if I click on batch edit, there you go. So that's how you will do batch edit. So I'm just gonna show you again. So let's say I have a list, I have like 800 suppliers list and I want specific 10 suppliers to go on certain settings. I'm gonna select those suppliers on using this tick box on the left, and I'm gonna click on batch edit. That will open the same box with the title batch edit, right? And then here you can select the tracking, you can select the GL code of your choice. And then if you want to attach a certain workflow on all of those suppliers, you straight away go ahead and attach that certain workflow, and then you hit save. As soon as you hit save, you can see all these 3 suppliers will have the same GL code, the same tracking, and the same workflow. So not necessarily you need to go in each one and then keep editing. If you have a long list, if you want to do it to multiple, you can simply select all of them, go into batch edit and set the values in the batch edit. Okay. So, and the rest behavior, if you've done once batch edit, the rest of the behavior wherein EzzyBill, the bill comes in, EzzyBills identifies who's the supplier and automatically assigns the set values in from the contacts page, that remains the same. It's just if you want to edit a single contact or if you want to edit multiple contacts. So we have given you both the functionalities here. And once you have done with all the changes, everything's done, you can just go ahead and close the page, correct? And if you want to check if the settings were correct, like saved or not, or what's happened, you can always do testing and you can always revisit that page from contacts, Xero contacts, and you can go ahead and check that all the settings have been saved. Okay, so now the tricky question here is sometimes Xero pushes an update, sometimes the Xero is disconnected, or you have connected one Xero account and then you stopped using that and you're now using a different Xero account, or you want to update your accounting system, you're updating it from Xero to MYOB or MYOB to Xero. And that becomes tricky because you in your contacts, you can still see the old contacts if you were connected to if your EzzyBills is connected to the old system, you can still see that system in here, correct? Now, if you when you move to a new system, all you've got to do once you connect it, once you've go through the connection steps, once you've connected, then it's a mandatory step where you need to go into apps and click on the force refresh, like this refresh. We call it force refresh because as soon as I click on start refresh, it starts right away, right? So the refresh will start and wait till the refresh is finished. Once it's finished, then if you go into contacts, then you will see your new system. If you connected MYOB, you will see MYOB link here as well. Then you click on that link, it brings you to the same page, and then you will see all the contacts here. Uh, if why why I'm focusing on this one is if your EzzyBills is not connected for some reason, and then you try to change something in here, it's definitely not going to work because the connection is broken, correct? And whenever you connect it to a new system, um, although EzzyBills will have the old contacts, you will need to do the changes on the new contacts from your new system. So the refresh will ensure that all the data in your accounting system is carried in EzzyBills and then it's been shown in EzzyBills. And then you can do and replicate all the same settings in the new system contacts. So I'm just gonna go and show you a test. Let's do some live tests. So I'm gonna delete this because let's set the Bunnings account code as, let's say, cleaning, for example. This is Bunnings Group Limited. I have saved this. And now what I'm going to do, I'm close this page and I'm just going to upload a Bunnings bill using drag and drop. And now this is happening live, right? So let's wait for some time and see what account code EzzyBills will assign to Bunnings. So let's check which account code we have set. So this is Bunnings. We have set cleaning as GL code here. This is the document. All right, so this Bunnings invoice has already been processed. Now, if I go to Xero, there we go. So as you can see, the account code is cleaning. I did not do anything special. I simply dragged and dropped that in here. EzzyBills identified it's a Bunnings bill. It went into the contacts page. It looked up what is the contact, default contact. It's cleaning. So that's the contact. That's the GL code EzzyBills is set in Xero. This is how you will see that effect. You will not need to do anything special. Okay, I think that's pretty much sums up the session. And apart from this, we have rolled out OneDrive integration as well. So if you want to try it, if you have any questions regarding it, you can always come back to us and ask us. Yeah, one key information here is if the defaults, you can add what you're going to use. For example, don't necessarily need to add everything here, right? We give you 4 different options. Like there is tracking, there is GL code, workflow. It's not necessary that you will need to use all the 4 options. If your business case, if you just want to use tracking, you can just use the tracking. And for everything else, EzzyBills will work the normal way it does, like going into your accounting system and look for the GL code, which GL code was used for this invoice previously. It will do all those things. This is just you're setting a default value to only those suppliers which you need. So if you set default tracking for 10 suppliers, only the tracking will be set to that. Everything else, GL code and tax code and workflow is gonna be functioning the way it was before. So you might go and set just the tracking for some customers. You might go and set just the GL code for some other customers. You can do that. Everything else is not affected. The only thing that we will pick from here is the set values. If you haven't set it, EzzyBills any which ways will be determining it from your accounting software. Yes, so all of our customers who have come from text, they're really happy with this feature, and they really find it really easy to set the default values in the context. Okay, so if we do not have any more questions, I will conclude the session. Please go ahead and test this feature. And if at all you've bumped into issues or if it's not working, you always have our support email address. Just send an email to us and we will get into it. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming to this session.